Hey guys, it's Troy. Welcome to another episode. Why the herd fails with women? Because individuality is an aphrodisiac, okay? And individuality is one of those currencies which is in extremely short supply in 2025. Basically, because everybody kind of wants to be the same. Everybody kind of wants to look the same. And I've talked about this before, but globalization has encouraged this trend, okay? Because we have the same stores all over the world. We have the same restaurants over a lot of the world. We listen to a lot of the same music now because of the international nature of the music platforms, the streaming platforms. You know, Instagram means that a lot of us, regardless of what country we're in, where we are in the world, we are taking in the same influences, okay? And what this has meant is a growing degree of homogenous behavior, okay, amongst women but also amongst men, all right? And a lot of guys are very scared to step out of the box, particularly if you're somebody who is working in the corporate space, okay? Because then you're really screwed, you're doubly screwed, because you are a victim of this global homogenization that we're seeing, but also you're boxed in by the people who are around you. And remember the old thing about the 5 people that you surround yourself with the most are going to be a reflection of you, etc., etc. Well, guess what? If you're working in corporate, then unfortunately the people that you spend the most time with are going to be other people in that corporate environment. And I know from my own experience that even if you try to sort of stand out from the crowd a little bit, it's very hard not to get pulled in by their expectations. It's very hard not to be influenced by their sort of societal goals and, you know, what they think is a good thing to do and the kind of life that they want to lead. And most of these people are living a very conservative, sort of middle class, conventional life. Well, that's great for them, but it may not be great for you, or maybe it is, and that's fine. But the one thing it's not is enabling you to stand out from the crowd, okay? Because if you buy into the same mythology that everybody else on the planet, well, not everybody else on the planet, but everybody else in your local milieu buys into, then by definition, you are just another dude, okay? You are just another dude. Now, imagine, we're in London now, right? So you can imagine in London, you know, the dating app, loads of people on the dating apps, loads of people, you know, looking for either casual liaisons or long-term relationships and marriage. A lot of people looking for long-term relationships and marriage, because that is still the default in the United Kingdom, okay? Even though we're supposedly in the midst of like hookup culture and stuff, and yeah, of course that goes on, but in the end, a lot of people, particularly a lot of women, want to get married, they want to settle down, they want to have children. Again, nothing wrong with that, but if you are presenting as precisely that guy, and that's exactly what you want, and there's no question in your mind about that, okay, then there's no mystique about you for a start, because you're just like every other dude, basically, with normal, conventional, conservative, middle-class, predictable aspirations, okay? And also you've got a lot of competition, because there's another 1,000 dudes like that in her inbox or in her DMs who want exactly the same stuff, because they're conditioned by the same societal beliefs. They are conditioned by the same circumstances around them, okay? So yes, you might win out in the game, for sure. Maybe you will be the best guy who has these conventional and normal attitudes to life and beliefs, and she'll think, you know what, I'll go for Troy, because yep, he wants all these things and ticks all the boxes, so fair enough. You might win out, but it's like saying you're going to win out at a game of roulette, or you're going to win out on a slot machine. You might do, but equally you might not. You might spend all night putting money into the slot machine and not win anything, okay? So what really creates attraction is individuality. Now, I'm not saying so therefore you have to be some crazy maverick and go around wearing a cowboy hat and cowboy boots and crazy goggle glasses and just be some sort of outlaw. It's far more subtle than that. But you've got to think about, okay, what am I communicating, all right? And it's what you're communicating in terms of your dress sense, in terms of what you wear, in terms of the way you present yourself, in terms of the way that you speak, all right, in terms of the way that you carry yourself, in terms of the things that you talk about, the things that you are passionate about, okay? Are you coming across as another boring bloke who's got a junior position in finance? Or are you coming across as something maybe a little bit more exotic, a little bit more enigmatic, a little bit more compelling, okay? That leaves her imagination a little bit more whetted for more, right? People think that all you have to do to create attraction is to tick off a load of things on a checklist, and then that's fine, job done. Sometimes, if the stars align, that can work. If you're relatively attractive and you meet a woman who is in the right place in her life, and you know she wants perhaps to have a long-term relationship, she wants to settle down, and you appear to be ticking those boxes, sure, maybe you luck out, okay? But again, like I say, your chances are not optimal because you are competing against a lot of other people, many of whom may have better attributes than you, and also wanting the same things and presenting yourself in the same manner as most other people in the environment in which you live is not inherently sexy, okay? It might be socially acceptable, it might be socially desirable even, okay? It certainly is expected, all right? But it's not setting the world on fire, okay? You know, this is why we don't get many movies where the main lead male character is a mild-mannered accountant, okay? It just doesn't really happen unless, I suppose, you know, you had Superman, who was a mild-mannered journalist, but then of course at night he took off his glasses, put on his tights, and he became Superman, right? If you're not doing the same thing, metaphorically, you know, maybe during the daytime you are in a conventional job, maybe in the daytime you are doing a conventional role. I certainly was, you know, years ago I was doing a very conventional, quite respectable sort of professional job in corporate work, and you know, I learned a lot from that. That was fine. But in the evenings I would become a different person. I kept my private life was very separate, and the type of private life that I was having was very different from that of my colleagues. And I was talking earlier about that sort of social pressure that you get from other people, having expectations about you and maybe what you should be doing and opinions on your life. And the problem is, being in a work environment like that, you kind of can't, you know, with the best will in the world, it's kind of hard to get away from that, because people are nosy and people want a bit of gossip, and people are going to ask you and they're going to needle you about it. Oh, so when are you settling down? When are you going to do this? When are you going to do that? Okay? And if there's a sort of general consensus, which there likely is, that the right things to do are get married by the time you're 30, buy a house, move to suburbia, you know, whatever it is, it's very hard not to get wrapped up in that. It's very hard not to get status anxiety within that specific milieu, because as human beings we want to conform, right? We want to be accepted into the tribe. And if all the tribe around you is saying these are the right things, this is where you should go and eat, these are the kinds of foods you should eat, these are the kinds of, I don't know, whole seeds that you should be consuming because they're good for your gut. This is the kind of exercise you should be doing. You should be cycling. You should be wearing lycra in the morning and cycling to work. You should be doing so many steps a day. You should be blah blah blah. You know, you should be living a certain lifestyle. There are certain socially sanctified things within the group that you're in. It's very hard to stand out from that and go, well, that's great for you, but I'm going to do something different. It is possible to stand out from that and to not go along with the narrative, but it's quite difficult. And as I say, the danger of that is not that any of those things are inherently bad, but the danger of it is that you become mediocre by default, because you're just doing what everybody else is doing. You're just accepting what everybody else is saying, and there's no imagination, there's no spark, there's no mystique, there's no glamour, right? There's no excitement, there's nothing to draw people in, because you're a carbon copy of everybody else around you, okay? So you need to find ways to either, within the structure that you're in, within the social structure that you're in, to subvert that, even in small ways are fine. I'm not, so you don't have to burn the place down. I'm saying like little things, like in the way that you dress, in your attitude. You know, you don't have to go along with social conventions just because other people do. But secondly, in the end, if you want to have a different sort of life, you might need to remove yourself from those institutions that are chaining you, from those institutions that are constraining you and that are, by their very nature, confining you to a specific sort of existence, all right? That might mean leaving your job. It might mean going traveling, like my friend James did. My friend James worked in corporate for a long time, was successful, and then one day woke up and said, no, sod this, I'm going to go and travel the world. And that's what he's done for the last 7 or 8 years, okay? That's quite an extreme example, but it can be done, all right? It can be done. You don't have to fit into a certain social structure, but I think as humans, we're very scared not to. And again, just to bring this back to dating, the reason that this is important is because you've got to think about, okay, so what are women attracted to? Well, women tend to be attracted, whatever they might say on the surface, they tend to be attracted to guys who are outliers in one shape or form, okay? If you are the also-ran who works in an office and has a nice job and takes his dog for a walk in the park at the weekend, yep, you're a cute guy, you're a friendly guy, whatever. Yes, you're in with a shot, but you're not necessarily setting out anyone's world on fire because you're the same as everybody else, and she knows that, okay? So you end up becoming either the boyfriend by default or the sort of, you know, the sort of, oh, well, he'll do kind of guy. And that's not really what you want to be. You want to be invoking genuine desire. And genuine desire does not come from mediocrity, okay? Genuine desire does not come from being part of the herd. Genuine desire comes from being something that is authentically different, okay? Hope you enjoyed this one. Speak to you guys again very soon. Please subscribe to the channel, comment below, etc. And I'll see you on the next episode.